You're live, Chair.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to this North West Area Planning meeting on 14th of August 2024. My name's Councillor Maddie Thompson. I'm the chairman of this committee. There are a few housekeeping matters to run through. We're streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting you are giving your consent to being recorded. When invited to speak, please use your microphone and speak clearly, referencing a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers. Keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible and ensure your microphones remain off when not speaking, as this is important for the live streaming to be heard clearly. Can I draw your attention to the notices on the agenda papers regarding the different levels within the chamber, and advise that the fire exit is the door behind this top table as well as the one you came in through. Members, may I draw your attention to the members' update, which unusually isn't for one of the items on the agenda. It has further information on the consultation draft NPPF, which I think we're now all familiar with, but which is not a material consideration this evening. Mr Jones, could I have the apologies for absence, please?
Good evening, Chair. Yeah, we have apologies for absence from Councillors Morgan, Siddle, Stevens and White.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right, item 3 is the minutes. It's recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on 17th of July are approved as a true and accurate record. May I take them as read, members? I so propose. Seconded, I think Councillor W will get ahead of me, members. Right, item 4 is declaration of interest. To disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. And members are reminded they're also required to disclose any such interests as soon as they become aware, should the need arise to the meeting. Members, Councillor Durham.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I have a pecuniary interest in the one item on the agenda this evening for various reasons. So I therefore consulted Mr Quelch before he left us to clarify my position. The interest is, of course, recorded in my register of interests on the website. So his advice was, as I am acting as an agent for the applicant tonight, that I have the right to speak for your 2 minutes, after which I will absent myself for the discussion and the deliberation and the determination. Thank you.
I don't, in fact, have you down as a public participant. You're not on my list, but Mr Jones, that's in order, is it, for Councillor Durham to speak?
It would be down to your discretion, Chair, I believe.
Right, that's fine then.
We have a supporter, so it would be down to your discretion if you would like.
Well, that's fine. He's the agent. The agent is entitled to speak, and I don't plan to rule him out for other reasons. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Chairman.
So in that case, we move on to item 5, which is our planning application for this evening. Presentation by Ms Page. And then we have 3 members of the public to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, members. This is a Section 73 application, reference number 24/006360 VAR, and the application seeks a variation of Condition 6 on the approved application with the reference there, 16-01373 full, relating to holiday lodges at Warren Lodge Park, Herbage Park Road in Woodham Water. Here is a location and an aerial plan. You can see the application site outlined in red, and it shows the site in context with Woodham Water to the east. Access for the holiday lodges is here on Herbage Park Road, which forms the southern boundary of the site. You can see on the aerial photograph here, there's woodland to the southern and western boundary of the application site, and equally a larger parcel of woodland to the north outside of the application site. And this is where the public right-of-way, which runs in a sort of east to west direction, is sited. The site contains 102 lodges, as you can see here on the site plan, together with an amenity building which contains a swimming pool and a gym, and that's that larger block where my cursor is. So this Section 73 application relates to just 48 of the holiday lodges distributed across the site. And just a point to note is that there is another application submitted currently with the local planning authority, which relates to the removal of the relevant condition affecting the other 74 holiday lodges, and that will be reported to a forthcoming committee. So as set out in the committee report, the application seeks to vary a condition to enable a single storage shed to be provided for each holiday lodge. It's proposed that these outbuildings would be no greater than 2.5 by 4 metres in size and would be sited no further than 4 metres from each lodge. Equally, as already set out, the majority of the units have already erected such an outbuilding, and thus the application is part retrospective. Here are some photographs showing some examples of the existing sheds on site. So you can see here that they are varying sort of sizes, designs and materials, but in the main they are considered to be sympathetic to lodges they serve. So here you can see sort of similar approach in terms of colour and material, and again here, and sort of you can see sort of just within this sort of random examples sort of how close they are sited to the lodge they serve. Here's just so it's showing some of the lodges in a wider street scene context. So again, sort of where my cursor is here, you can see a small outbuilding serving this particular lodge. So again, sited very close to the lodge it serves, and sort of sympathetic in materials. Not dissimilar here, a sort of the outbuilding sited to the rear of it, again in close proximity. And again here, sort of a white boarded to match the existing lodge, and a similar approach here. In terms of our summary and recommendation, the need for such storage has been adequately set out and would support the existing tourism use on site in compliance with policy E5 and S8 of the local plan, and the principle of the development is supported and acceptable. There would be no harm to the wider character and appearance of the site or the locality. The structures would not appear unduly prominent from within the site or from any public views, including from Herbage Park Road or the public right-of-way within that woodland to the north. The development will create no adverse neighbour amenity impacts for either occupiers of the existing lodges or to any nearby neighbouring residential properties. Landscape and ecology matters are considered to be acceptable, and there'll be no harmful impacts to flood risk. And overall, the development would accord with the policies within the local development plan and the MPPF, and there are no material considerations that indicate that decision should be made other than in accordance with the development plan. And our recommendation this evening to you is that planning permission should be granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So public participation, we regularly put the agent first. So Councillor Durham, you have 2 minutes to speak. Can we get the time right, please? Apologies. Just, as you know, I'll go through the rules as you know.
Yes, I'm fully aware of the rules.
Make yourself comfortable. You have 2 minutes, and I am very precise with my 2 minutes. Is the way you go.
Then I will read very fast, Chairman. Members, I appreciate this is unusual, but I am the agent for this application because the applicant was actually trying to regularise an anomaly which had resulted in an enforcement case. This anomaly is that storage sheds are permitted under the caravan park licence issued by this council, but the planning consents had conditions that included not having such structures. This has been a long-standing issue, and indeed Councillor Morgan and the Parish Council met with Mr Winslow earlier this year to discuss this and other enforcement cases, and at that meeting it was agreed by all that these issues were best resolved by regularising the matter through the planning system. The applicant had a previous application that wasn't validated, and I was asked to assist, and after lengthy negotiations with Mr Winslow and Devon Herner, this was agreed to be the best way to correct the situation. In 2015, there was a variation to the occupancy of the lodges to 50 weeks a year, and the 2-week closure is checked by the enforcement team. Lodges are occupied for varying lengths of time, from long weekends to the maximum allowed. Some are owned by the applicant and some are under private ownership as holiday properties. We've heard that there is a genuine need for each lodge to have a safe and dry storage shed for a variety of items that cannot be kept in the lodges, and this is not unusual. In fact, most every other park in the district allows sheds. Lodges are restricted to 1 shed and a maximum size and location relating to its host lodge. In planning terms, there are no material planning considerations whatsoever that could warrant refusal, and as stated by the officer, there is no demonstrable harm to either the lodges on the site or any detrimental visual impact from outside the park. This does not conflict with any policies of the LDP, and I sincerely trust that members will accept the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Chairman.
Well done. Right, next we have Mr Michael Edwards, please, if you care to come forward. Pick any chair. I know you're used to this as a former councillor. Can we just give Councillor Durham a... Are you going to hear these bits? You're going to hear them? That's fine, just checking. Okay.
Not here.
No, just not here. Oh, okay. But you were. As a former councillor in this chamber, I should say. Right, we have our 2 minutes up.
Thank you. Members, my name is Michael Edwards and I stand here before you as a lodge owner at the Warren Lodge Park. Although this application deals with 28 lodges, or 48, there is in fact 102 lodges already mentioned. Firstly, and more importantly, I hear a copy of a letter sent by Maldon District Council to the Warren Lodge Park dated 17th of July 2018 and headed, and I quote, Site Licence Conditions. 1. I referred to our correspondence last year regarding the amendments to the site licensing conditions at the Warren Lodge Park. 2. I am pleased to enclose the new site licensing conditions for the site. 3. A garage, a shed or a covered storage space will be permitted between units. 4. Please ensure that these new conditions are displayed in a prominent place on the site along with a copy of the existing site licence. So in fact, this confirms that MDC approved a variation of the condition 6 years ago. So why are we here? In regards to some of the objections, they seem to be nonsensical for various reasons. For example, one of them refers to the fact that the original planning consent was for holiday purposes and not residential. Indeed, but what has a shed got to do with that? It goes on to state that in tourism terms there is no need for a shed. I beg to differ. When I go on a holiday, I expect to sit outside of my decking on my garden furniture, which has to be stored somewhere, as well as my B&Q equipment, none of which can fit inside my lodge. Furthermore, we are encouraged to keep our surroundings in a good and reasonable condition, so my lawnmower, gardening tools, pots, etc. are kept in the shed. Not to mention the fact that we're sitting on a golf course. And these lodge owners who bought their lodge to play golf have to store their golf equipment somewhere. And finally, these lodge owners also have bicycles, as I do, so I have to keep them safe and secure. These sheds have been in situ for many years, mine since 2018, and others for longer, so I fail to understand why this has come before you now, especially as already mentioned, you agreed to the variation in 2018. I understand the office recommends approval, and in light of the above information, I hope you support it too. And Madam Chairman, if you'd like a copy of your letter, I've got it here.
Thank you, Mr Edwards. Perfectly timed. I can manage with that, thank you. Right, and thirdly, we have Councillor James Rushton, who represents Woodham Water Parish Council. So, same rules for you, sir. Make yourself comfortable, sit or stand as you wish, and you have 2 minutes exactly from when you begin to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. All of the sheds and other domestic paraphernalia have been erected by residents at Warren Lodge Park since the purchase of the Warren estate by the current owners. Woodham Water Parish Council has been reporting to MDC for at least 7 years that this is a very clear and significant physical breach of this important condition, but with little response and no meaningful attempt at enforcement. Indeed, Maldon District Council now seeks to resolve the matter by effectively cancelling the original condition with only a virtually meaningless restriction imposed on the size of shed allowed. Meaningless because most of the sheds already fall within that restriction. Maldon District Council's reasoning behind the original condition, also a number of other conditions imposed in relation to the 3 sets of lodges on this site, was to quote, to ensure the appropriate development and use of the site for recreational purposes, that is, as opposed to being developed for domestic purposes. This reason was evidently deemed sufficiently important to be a consistent theme of the conditions originally applied. The non-domestic recreational element of the conditions remains as relevant now as then. But because enforcement did not address the issue when first informed, domestication of the site has been allowed to proliferate via the 80 or so sheds already on the site, and which the current application with the recommendation of officers would allow simply to remain. Mr Durham has already mentioned to the variation on another condition relating to occupancy. That variation has further, again, diluted the recreational purpose of the permission given in the first place and results only in further creeping domestication of the site. The position of Woodham Water Parish Council and of its residents is clear, therefore. We ask that Maldon District Council stands by its original, well-considered and recreationally focused condition, which remains so very relevant to the context of the Warren Lodge Park within the small village of
I have
Woodham
to stop
Water,
you there.
and refuse the application. Thank you.
Members, we'll just give Councillor Durham a few moments to make his escape.
Because this is the only item on the agenda, I will win my way. We'll see you next month.
Okay.
No more holidays. Yeah, that's the truth. Just say that.
Thanks. Okay, members, who'd like to start? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. Yeah, I see absolutely no reason why we shouldn't go ahead with the officer's recommendation to pass this application. I see no reason, no harm in the sheds at all.
Is that a proposal?
That's a proposal, yes, thank you.
Is that seconded? Seconded by Councillor Morley.
Just a matter of clarification.
Yes, sorry, two matters probably to just come back on in terms of my presentation and sort of member third party speaking is, sorry, the application's for 28 lodges. I think at one point I cited 48, but it is for 28, this application. The other pending or application that's just been submitted relates to the others. So this application is just for 28 lodges. Just picking up really on something the parish council spoke about in terms of the licence, and I know the agent also mentioned it, is that the licence, yes, there is a licence on there for the use, but that wouldn't take precedent over the planning condition. So obviously that's what we're here to discuss tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we just wanted to just emphasise that point, because it was said that, you know, Maldon Council had already approved these, yeah? But that's only one side of Maldon Council. And we know that there is sometimes conflict between things like licensing or environmental health regulations and planning conditions. So we just wanted to just make that clear.
Yes. So we have to, it seems sensible to me to align everything, and certainly if I was staying in a holiday lodge, I would expect to have somewhere to keep my golf clubs and my bicycle and my whatever else I happen to tote round with me. Councillor Morley.
Yes, all I'd say, I mean, when is a shed, these are clearly sheds. I mean, we've had this before with sheds, and things with lawnmowers and various other things. Sorry to hark back to my waste business, but you can't store technically things like that outside anyway, so they have to be covered for health reasons and soil, especially oil or paint or anything like that. I mean, nearly all caravan parks or lodges have a shed.
They do indeed.
Probably can't say a man shed anymore, but a person shed, you know, but I'll second it anyway.
Thank you. Councillor, nothing else to say? Well, if no one else has anything to say, members, I shall take that to the vote. So those in favour of Councillor Hughes' proposal to accept the officer's recommendation, please show. So that's all four of us. So thank you very much. That application is granted. And members, you'll be delighted to hear there are no items of business that the chairman of the committee has decided are urgent. So with thanks to officers and members of the public, I close the meeting at 7:47.